In the farthest reaches of the Andromeda Galaxy, where stars shimmered like scattered diamonds and nebulae painted the cosmos with hues no human eye could fully comprehend, there was a planet named Velara. It was a world of crystalline forests that sang when the wind passed through them, oceans of liquid light that pulsed with bioluminescent rhythms, and skies streaked with auroras so vibrant they seemed alive. The inhabitants of this wondrous realm were known as the Lumineth, a race of beings whose skin glowed softly in varying shades depending on their emotions, and whose elongated limbs moved with an elegance that made even the most graceful dancers on Earth appear clumsy. Among these radiant beings lived Princess Seren, the youngest daughter of Queen Velas and King Tarjan. She was not just any princess. She was considered one of the most beautiful and intelligent members of her species. Her silver hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall of moonlight, and her eyes sparkled with flecks of gold and violet, constantly shifting colors to reflect her mood. Though only 50 cycles old by Lumineth standards, a mere teenager in human years, Seren had already earned respect for her wisdom and compassion. Yet, despite her royal upbringing, she harbored a deep curiosity about life beyond her own star system. On Earth, meanwhile, a man named Selim Drake found himself at a crossroads. A former astronaut turned interstellar explorer, Selim had spent much of his adult life chasing the unknown. With sharp blue eyes that mirrored the vastness of space and a rugged charm born from years of surviving hostile environments, he was the kind of person who thrived on adventure. But after countless missions across galaxies, facing dangers both natural and alien, he began to feel a gnawing emptiness inside. He longed for something more than just exploration, for connection, purpose, meaning. It was during one such mission aboard the starship Ecliptica that fate intervened. The ship's sensors picked up an anomaly near the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy, a mysterious energy signature emanating from what appeared to be a derelict vessel floating silently amidst the cosmic debris. Drawn by instinct and perhaps a dash of reckless curiosity, Selim volunteered to investigate alone, piloting a small reconnaissance craft toward the source of the signal. What he didn't know was that this decision would set into motion a chain of events that would change his life, and two civilizations, forever. As Selim approached the derelict ship, he noticed something peculiar. Its surface wasn't scarred or battered like most abandoned vessels he'd encountered before. Instead, it gleamed faintly under the dim glow of a nearby star, its hull adorned with intricate patterns that seemed almost organic, as though the ship itself had grown rather than been constructed. His instruments flickered erratically as he drew closer, but his determination outweighed his caution. Docking carefully, he stepped out of his craft, clad in a sleek exosuit designed for extraterrestrial exploration. Inside, the air hummed with an otherworldly energy, and the walls shimmered faintly, responding to his presence. Before he could process his surroundings fully, a portal-like structure materialized before him, pulsating with iridescent light. Without warning, the ground beneath his feet dissolved into a cascade of glowing particles, pulling him through a vortex of color and sound. When the sensation subsided, Selim found himself standing on solid ground again, but nothing looked familiar. He was surrounded by towering crystalline trees that emitted soft melodies with every breeze, their translucent leaves refracting sunlight into dazzling rainbows. The sky above was painted in swirling shades of lavender and emerald, dotted with three suns casting overlapping shadows. As awe washed over him, a group of luminous figures emerged from the forest ahead. They moved gracefully, their bodies radiating gentle hues of blue and green. At the center of the procession stood Princess Seren, her golden violet eyes locking onto his with a mixture of surprise and fascination. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice melodic yet firm. Through some advanced translation technology embedded in his suit, or perhaps magic, though Selim couldn't tell which, the words reached him clearly. "I'm Selim," he replied, taking a cautious step forward. I think I'm lost." Seren tilted her head slightly, studying him with keen interest. To her, this stranger was unlike anything she'd ever seen. His dark hair contrasted sharply with his pale skin, and his eyes held a depth of emotion she hadn't expected. Despite his obvious confusion, he carried himself with quiet confidence, his posture relaxed but alert. Intrigued, Seren extended her hand, holding out a single rose-like bloom that seemed to glow faintly at its core. "This is for you," she said simply, smiling warmly. Unbeknownst to Selim, this gesture carried profound significance in Lumineth culture. On Velara, presenting someone with a lumabloom, an otherworldly flower unique to their planet, was not merely a sign of goodwill. It symbolized a sacred bond, often used to mark engagements or lifelong partnerships. By accepting the gift, he would unknowingly bind himself to a tradition older than the stars themselves. Selim hesitated for a moment, unsure how to respond. The flower was breathtakingly beautiful, its petals shimmering like liquid opals. Slowly, he reached out and took it, feeling its warmth against his gloved fingers. "Thank you," he said, offering a tentative smile. "It's incredible." The crowd of Lumineth around them erupted into murmurs, their glowing forms shifting excitedly. Saren's cheeks flushed a soft pinkish hue, betraying her delight. She gestured for him to follow her, leading him deeper into the crystalline forest while her entourage trailed behind. As they walked, she spoke animatedly about her world, pointing out landmarks and explaining the intricacies of Lumineth society. Selim listened intently, marveling at everything around him, though part of his mind remained preoccupied with questions about how he'd arrived here, and how he might return home. For now, however, he allowed himself to be swept up in the wonder of it all. Little did he realize that the simple act of accepting a flower had set off ripples that would soon engulf both him and the people of Velara in ways neither side could have anticipated. The next morning, Selim woke to find himself in a chamber unlike any he'd ever seen. The walls were made of a translucent material that shifted colors gently, mimicking the rhythm of his breathing. Above him hung a canopy of bioluminescent threads that pulsed softly, casting a soothing glow over the room. For a brief moment, he forgot where he was, lulled by the serene ambience. Then reality came rushing back, and he sat up abruptly, clutching the lumabloom Saren had given him the day before. Its glow had dimmed slightly but still retained an ethereal beauty. Before he could gather his thoughts, the door slid open with a soft chime, revealing Saren herself. She wore flowing robes that shimmered like liquid starlight, her silver hair braided intricately with strands of tiny glowing beads. Her golden-violet eyes sparkled with mischief as she entered, carrying a tray laden with unfamiliar fruits and steaming beverages. "Good morning, Selim," she greeted him cheerfully. "I hope you slept well." Selim blinked, momentarily overwhelmed by her presence. Yeah, I did, actually. Thanks." He gestured awkwardly at the bed. "This place is amazing." Saren laughed lightly, setting the tray down on a hovering table that adjusted its height automatically. "It's one of our guest quarters. Comfortable, isn't it? Here, try this." She handed him a cup filled with a shimmering liquid that smelled faintly of honey and citrus. Cautiously, he took a sip and was surprised by how refreshing it tasted, leaving a tingling sensation on his tongue. "So," Saren began, sitting cross-legged on the floor opposite him, "tell me more about your world. You mentioned Earth yesterday, but I want to hear everything. What's it like?" Selim hesitated, unsure where to begin. How could he possibly describe the chaos and beauty of Earth to someone who had never experienced it? "Well," he started slowly, "it's complicated. Some parts are incredible. Mountains, oceans, cities full of people creating art and music. But other parts, well, let's just say we're not always great at getting along with each other." Saren tilted her head thoughtfully, her expression softening. "That sounds familiar. We have our struggles too, though perhaps not as openly violent as yours. Still, conflict exists everywhere, doesn't it?" Her insight caught him off guard. Most humans tended to romanticize alien cultures, assuming they were somehow superior or free of problems. But Saren's honesty disarmed him, making him feel less like an outsider and more like someone she genuinely wanted to understand. They spent hours talking, exchanging stories and laughter, until the initial awkwardness melted away entirely. By midday, Saren decided it was time to show Selim more of Velara. She led him outside, guiding him through fields of lumablooms that stretched as far as the eye could see. Each flower responded to their footsteps, blooming brighter as they passed. "These are sacred to us," she explained. "They grow naturally only here, and they're said to hold fragments of the universe's soul." "That's poetic," Selim remarked, crouching to examine one closely. Its glow intensified under his gaze, and he chuckled. "Does it know I'm admiring it?" Saren grinned. "Maybe. Lumablooms are sensitive to emotion. If you focus hard enough, they'll mirror what you're feeling." Intrigued, Selim closed his eyes and concentrated, thinking of the vastness of space and the thrill of discovery. When he opened them again, the flower before him shone brighter than ever, its petals rippling like water. He laughed in amazement, and Saren joined in, her laughter ringing like bells. Their journey continued to the edge of a massive lake of liquid light, its surface undulating hypnotically. As they stood there, watching the sun's dip below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Saren turned to him with a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Ever swum in light?" she teased. "What? No," Selim exclaimed, backing away instinctively. "Is that even safe?" "It's perfectly safe," she assured him, already shedding her outer robe. Beneath it, she wore a fitted bodysuit that shimmered faintly. Without another word, she dove into the lake, disappearing beneath the glowing waves. Moments later, she resurfaced, her hair trailing behind her like molten silver. "Come on. You won't regret it." Reluctantly, Selim removed his boots and jacket, stepping cautiously into the lake. The moment the light touched his skin, he gasped. It felt warm and cool simultaneously, sending tingles racing up his spine. Summoning his courage, he plunged in completely, surfacing with a shout of exhilaration. The light enveloped him, weightless and buoyant, and for the first time since arriving, he felt truly free. As they splashed and laughed together, Selim realized something extraordinary. He wasn't just adapting to this alien world, he was beginning to belong in it. And Saren, with her boundless curiosity and infectious joy, was becoming someone he trusted deeply. What he didn't know, however, was that their bond was growing stronger in ways neither of them fully understood. Word of Selim's arrival spread quickly through the palace corridors, reaching the ears of Queen Velara and King Taryan. While the royal couple was initially intrigued by the notion of a human visiting Velara, their reactions diverged sharply once they learned of Saren's actions. Queen Velara, renowned for her diplomatic acumen and unwavering adherence to tradition, viewed the situation with a mix of concern and calculation. She paced the Grand Council chamber, her glowing skin shifting between shades of deep indigo and pale lavender, a reflection of her inner turmoil. "He accepted the Lumabloom," she stated firmly, addressing her advisors who stood attentively around the circular table carved from luminescent stone. "Whether he understands its significance or not, the implications are undeniable. This is no mere visit, it is a cultural entanglement." King Taryan, seated at the head of the table, leaned back in his chair, his amber eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Unlike his wife, he had always been more pragmatic, often favoring flexibility over rigid protocol. "Perhaps we should see this as an opportunity rather than a complication," he suggested, his tone measured. "Humans are resourceful, adaptable. If Saren has taken an interest in him, perhaps there is value in fostering this connection." The queen turned sharply toward him, her glow flaring briefly to a fiery crimson. "Value? Taryan, do you not grasp the gravity of this? Our traditions exist for a reason. A bond forged through the Lumabloom carries obligations, not just for Saren, but for our entire people. Do you propose we risk destabilizing centuries of customs for the sake of curiosity?" One of the elder advisors, a stooped figure named Elder Calith, stepped forward, his translucent robes shimmering faintly. "Your Majesty," he interjected respectfully, "the prophecy speaks of unity among the stars. Could this human be the key to fulfilling it? Or could he unravel the delicate balance we've maintained?" Velara sighed heavily, her glow softening to a muted gray. "Prophecies are dangerous things to interpret rashly. We must tread carefully. For now, let us observe. Let us ensure that Saren does not act impulsively, nor allow her heart to override her duty." Meanwhile, whispers of discontent began to ripple through the courtiers and lesser nobles. Some saw Selim's presence as a threat to their way of life, fearing that his ignorance of their customs might lead to unintended consequences. Others, particularly the younger generation, were fascinated by the idea of bridging worlds. Among them was Lord Nixon, a charismatic nobleman with ambitions of his own. He watched the unfolding drama with keen interest, his sapphire-blue glow flickering subtly as he plotted his next move. Nixon approached Saren later that evening, finding her in the palace gardens tending to a cluster of lumablooms. "Princess," he greeted her smoothly, bowing slightly. "May I speak candidly?" Saren straightened, brushing soil from her hands. "Of course, Lord Nixon. What is it?" "I cannot help but notice your fondness for our guest," he said, choosing his words carefully. "While I admire your curiosity, I must urge caution. Humans are unpredictable, driven by emotions rather than logic. Are you certain you wish to involve yourself so deeply with him?" Her eyes narrowed slightly, her glow shifting to a defensive shade of teal. "Selim is kind and intelligent. He means no harm." "And yet," Nixon countered gently, "his very presence disrupts the harmony of our traditions. The Lumabloom ceremony is sacred. By giving it to him, you may have inadvertently tied him, and yourself, to obligations neither of you fully comprehends." Saren faltered, uncertainty flickering across her face. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I only wanted to welcome him." Nixon nodded sympathetically, though a calculating gleam lingered in his eyes. "I believe you. But intentions alone cannot undo what has been done. Perhaps it would be wise to distance yourself until we better understand the ramifications." With that, he bowed again and departed, leaving Saren alone with her thoughts. For the first time since meeting Selim, doubt crept into her mind. Had she acted too hastily? Was she putting her people, and herself, at risk? Back in the council chamber, Queen Velara summoned her most trusted envoy, Commander Zareen, a battle-hardened warrior whose emerald glow radiated authority. "Commander," the Queen ordered, her voice steady, "keep a close watch on the human. Ensure he remains within acceptable bounds. And if necessary—" She paused, her gaze hardening. "Take whatever measures are required to protect our kingdom." Zareen bowed deeply, her expression unreadable. "It shall be done, Your Majesty." As tensions simmered beneath the surface, Selim remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. That night, as he gazed up at Velara's triple moons, he felt a strange sense of unease settle over him. Something was changing, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what. All he knew was that the warmth and acceptance he'd felt earlier were beginning to fray at the edges, replaced by an undercurrent of something darker. Little did he realize that the simple act of accepting a flower had ignited a chain reaction, one that would soon force him to confront not only the complexities of Lumineth culture but also the depths of his own resilience. The following day dawned with an unsettling tension hanging over the palace. Saren avoided Selim, citing vague responsibilities that kept her occupied elsewhere. Confused and hurt, Selim wandered the crystalline halls alone, his steps echoing softly against the glowing walls. The once welcoming atmosphere now felt distant, almost hostile. Servants who had greeted him warmly before now averted their eyes, whispering behind cupped hands as he passed. Determined to understand what had changed, Selim sought out one of the few friendly faces he recognized, Elder Caliph. The advisor was known for his wisdom and impartiality, qualities that made him a trusted confidant among the royal family. Finding him in the library, surrounded by floating holographic texts, Selim approached cautiously. "Elder Caliph," he began, "do you have a moment?" The elder turned, his translucent robes shimmering faintly. "Ah, Selim. Of course. What troubles you?" Selim hesitated, unsure how to phrase his concerns without sounding accusatory. "It's just, everything seems different today. People are avoiding me, and Saren won't even look at me. Did I do something wrong?" Caliph sighed, gesturing for Selim to sit. "You have stumbled into a delicate situation, my friend. The Lumabloom you accepted, it holds great significance in our culture. To give it is to offer a bond, a promise. By accepting it, you unknowingly agreed to that bond." Selim's eyes widened. "A bond? Like marriage?" "In a sense, yes," Caliph confirmed. "Though it is more complex than that. It ties you not only to Saren but to our people as well. Such bonds require careful consideration and mutual understanding. Unfortunately, some view your ignorance of this tradition as a potential threat." Anger flared within Selim, though he struggled to keep it in check. "No one told me any of this. How could they expect me to understand something so important when I don't even know your language properly?" Caliph nodded sympathetically. "I agree it was unwise to leave you uninformed. However, emotions run high here. There are those who fear change, who see your presence as disruptive. And then there are others." He trailed off, his gaze drifting toward the doorway. Selim followed his line of sight to see Lord Nixon entering the library, his sapphire glow pulsing faintly. The nobleman smiled thinly as he approached, his demeanor polite yet predatory. "Selim," Nixon greeted him, his tone smooth as silk. "I trust Elder Caliph is enlightening you about our customs?" Selim clenched his fists, resisting the urge to snap. "Yes, he's been very helpful. More so than anyone else here." Nixon chuckled lightly, though his eyes remained cold. "Customs can be tricky, especially for outsiders. But rest assured, we mean no ill will. We simply wish to ensure that our traditions are respected." Before Selim could respond, a commotion erupted outside the library. Shouts echoed through the corridors, accompanied by the unmistakable hum of energy weapons charging. Startled, Selim and Caliph hurried to the entrance, only to find Commander Zareen leading a squad of armored guards. Their emerald glows burned fiercely, weapons trained on the intruders, a group of masked rebels wielding crude but effective plasma rifles. "You dare challenge the crown?" Zareen barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Stand down, or face the consequences." The rebels exchanged nervous glances but held their ground. One of them stepped forward, removing their mask to reveal a young Lumineth woman with fiery orange skin. "We will not stand idly by while foreign influences corrupt our ways," she declared passionately. "This human must leave, or we will remove him ourselves." Panic surged through Selim as he realized the gravity of the situation. These weren't just political disagreements, they were escalating into violence, and he was at the center of it. Instinct kicked in, and he grabbed Calitha's arm, pulling the elder back into the safety of the library. "We need to get out of here," Selim whispered urgently. "If they start shooting, we're sitting ducks." Caliph nodded, his usual calm demeanor shaken. Together, they slipped out through a side exit, navigating the labyrinthine passages of the palace. Meanwhile, outside, the standoff grew more volatile. Zareen's forces advanced steadily, their weapons crackling with suppressed energy. The rebels retaliated with bursts of plasma fire, shattering crystalline pillars and sending shards raining down. Amidst the chaos, Saren appeared, her silver hair whipping wildly as she ran toward the scene. Her golden-violet eyes burned with determination as she raised her hands, emitting a pulse of radiant energy that forced both sides to pause. "Enough!" she commanded, her voice resonating with authority. "This ends now. Selim is not our enemy, nor are any of you. Violence solves nothing." Her intervention created a momentary lull, but the tension remained palpable. From the shadows, Lord Nixon observed silently, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. Whatever happened next, he knew he had successfully sown discord, and positioned himself as the mediator who could restore order. As the dust settled, Selim found himself cornered in a storage room deep within the palace, his heart pounding with adrenaline. Beside him, Elder Caliph leaned heavily against a wall, his translucent robes sagging slightly as exhaustion claimed him. The sounds of conflict still reverberated faintly through the corridors, though they seemed distant now. "We can't stay here," Selim muttered, pacing anxiously. "They'll find us eventually." Caliph nodded weakly. "Indeed. But fleeing blindly will only make matters worse. We need allies, those who can guide us safely." Just as Selim opened his mouth to ask who might qualify as an ally in this mess, the door creaked open. Both men tensed, bracing for the worst. Instead, a young Lumineth servant slipped inside, her turquoise glow flickering nervously. She glanced over her shoulder before closing the door softly behind her. "You must leave," she whispered urgently. "The rebels are gaining support, and Commander Zareen has orders to detain you. Neither side will listen to reason." Selim frowned. "Detain me? For what? I didn't ask for any of this." The servant shook her head. "It doesn't matter. You're a symbol now, a catalyst. To some, you represent hope, to others, danger. Either way, staying here puts everyone at risk." Caliph straightened slightly, his expression thoughtful. "She's right, Selim. This conflict has spiraled beyond control. If we act quickly, we might still salvage the situation. But where do we go? Selim demanded. Every direction feels like walking into a trap. The servant hesitated, then reached into the folds of her robe and pulled out a small device resembling a crystal orb. Take this. It will lead you to the Whispering Grove, a sanctuary hidden deep in the forest. Few know of its existence, and fewer still can access it. There, you may find refuge and answers. Selim accepted the orb cautiously, feeling its warmth seep into his palm. And what about Saren? I can't just abandon her. The servant's glow dimmed slightly, tinged with sadness. Princess Saren is strong, but she is also torn. Trust that she will find her own path. For now, your survival is paramount. Before Selim could argue further, the servant pressed a button on the orb, causing it to emit a faint hum. A holographic map materialized in the air, highlighting a route through the crystalline woods. Follow this path, she instructed. Do not deviate. Time is short. With a final nod, she slipped back out the way she came, leaving Selim and Caliph alone once more. The elder placed a reassuring hand on Selim's shoulder. Let us move swiftly, my friend. Destiny awaits. The journey through the forest proved treacherous. The once harmonious melodies of the crystalline trees now sounded discordant, as though reflecting the turmoil gripping Velara. Shadows danced eerily across the glowing foliage, and the air carried an electric charge that prickled against Selim's skin. Every rustle of leaves or snap of a twig sent his nerves jangling, convinced they were being followed. At one point, they stumbled upon a clearing littered with remnants of ancient structures, crumbled arches and shattered statues half buried in lumabloom fields. Caliph paused, gazing solemnly at the ruins. This was once a temple dedicated to unity, he murmured. Now, it stands as a reminder of what fractures can do. Selim studied the desolate scene, his chest tightening. Do you think it's too late to fix things? Caliph met his gaze, his glow steady despite the weight of the question. Hope is fragile, but resilient. It endures even when all else crumbles. Remember that. As they pressed on, the terrain grew rougher, forcing them to navigate narrow ridges and slippery slopes. Twice, they narrowly avoided detection by patrols, both rebel factions and royal guards scouring the area. Each close call left Selim's pulse racing, his grip tightening on the orb as though it were a lifeline. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached the edge of the Whispering Grove. The grove was unlike anything Selim had seen before, a dense thicket of lumablooms so vibrant they seemed to pulse with their own heartbeat. The air shimmered with an almost tangible energy, and the silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional whisper of wind weaving through the blossoms. This is it, Caliph announced, his voice barely audible. Step carefully. The grove chooses who enters. Selim hesitated, then took a cautious step forward. The lumablooms parted gently, creating a path that led deeper into the grove. Encouraged, he continued, Caliph trailing close behind. As they ventured further, the environment shifted subtly. The lumablooms grew taller, their petals brushing against the canopy above, and the ground softened into moss-like terrain that cushioned their steps. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and cloaked in robes woven from living vines, the being radiated an aura of immense power. Its features were obscured, but its voice resonated like thunder rolling through the grove. Who dares disturb the sanctity of this place? It intoned, each word heavy with authority. Selim froze, his throat dry. Beside him, Caliph bowed deeply. Guardian of the grove, we seek refuge and guidance. This human bears no malice. He is entangled in circumstances beyond his control. The guardian regarded them for a long moment, its presence suffocating yet oddly calming. Finally, it spoke again. Very well. Enter, but know this, the truths revealed here will test your resolve. Only those willing to face themselves may leave unchanged. With that, the guardian stepped aside, allowing them passage into the heart of the grove. There, amidst a circle of lumablooms that glowed brighter than any they'd seen before, lay a pedestal holding an artifact, a crystalline sphere etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and writhe like living creatures. Caliph approached reverently, placing a hand on the sphere. Instantly, visions flooded his mind, images of past conflicts, forgotten alliances, and prophecies whispered by the stars themselves. Tears streamed down his face as he absorbed the knowledge, his glow fluctuating wildly. Selim watched, awestruck, as the elder collapsed to his knees. When Caliph finally looked up, his eyes were filled with both sorrow and resolve. "The answers lie within reach," he said hoarsely. "But the cost? It will demand sacrifice." "What kind of sacrifice?" Selim asked, dread pooling in his stomach. Caliph didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned to the Guardian, who had resumed its vigil silently. "Will you aid us?" he inquired. The Guardian inclined its head slightly. "I serve the balance. Should you choose to act, I will provide what assistance I can." Selim swallowed hard, steeling himself. "Then tell me what I need to do." Caliph rose unsteadily, gripping the sphere tightly. "To heal the rift, you must confront the truth, not just of this world, but of yourself. Are you ready?" Selim nodded, determination replacing fear. Whatever awaited him, he knew he couldn't turn back now. Caliph's words hung heavy in the air as Selim stepped forward, his resolve firm despite the uncertainty swirling inside him. The crystalline sphere pulsed faintly in response to his presence, its intricate patterns glowing brighter with each heartbeat. He reached out cautiously, placing a hand on its cool surface. Instantly, a rush of visions flooded his mind, images of Earth and Velara intertwined, of humans and Lumineth standing side by side, their differences not dividing them but enriching their shared existence. But these hopeful glimpses were interspersed with darker scenes. Conflict erupting across both worlds, mistrust poisoning alliances, and destruction raining down upon civilizations once thought unshakable. Among these visions, one figure stood out repeatedly: himself. In some, he was a bridge between cultures, uniting them through understanding. In others, he was a harbinger of chaos, his actions sparking wars that tore galaxies apart. Selim staggered back, breaking contact with the sphere as the torrent of images faded. His breath came in ragged gasps, sweat beading on his forehead. What does it mean?" he asked, his voice trembling. Caliph placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "It means you are at a crossroads, Selim. Your choices will shape not only your fate but the fates of countless others. To succeed, you must embrace who you truly are, and confront the fears holding you back." The Guardian, silent until now, spoke again, its voice resonating like distant thunder. "The prophecy foretells of unity born from sacrifice. You have been chosen, though not by design. Will you accept this burden?" Selim clenched his fists, his heart pounding. Acceptance meant risking everything: the life he knew, the trust he'd built with Saren, even his own safety. But rejection would doom two worlds to isolation and strife. Slowly, he straightened, meeting the Guardian's enigmatic gaze. "I'll do it," he said firmly. "Tell me what I need to do." Meanwhile, back at the palace, Saren faced her own trial. Her parents had summoned her to the throne room, their expressions grave. Queen Velara glared down from her seat, her glow flickering angrily. "You've endangered us all, Saren," she snapped. "Your reckless decision to involve this human has ignited rebellion within our borders." "What were you thinking?" Saren flinched but held her ground. "I acted out of kindness, Mother, not recklessness. Selim is not our enemy. He doesn't understand our ways because no one bothered to explain them to him." King Taryan raised a hand, silencing his wife before she could retort. "Enough," he said firmly. "Blame solves nothing. We must focus on restoring order. Saren, if you care for this human as much as your actions suggest, then prove it by helping us end this crisis." Before Saren could respond, Lord Nixon entered the chamber, his sapphire glow radiating false humility. "Your Majesties," he began smoothly, bowing low. "I bring troubling news. Reports indicate that Commander Zareen has taken matters into her own hands, rallying loyalists to hunt down the human. If unchecked, this pursuit may escalate further." Saren's eyes widened in alarm. "No. She'll kill him." Queen Velara sighed heavily, her glow softening to a pale gray. This situation grows more volatile by the moment. Nixon, assemble a council immediately. We must find a solution before bloodshed becomes inevitable. Nixon nodded, though a sinister smile played at the corners of his mouth. As he turned to leave, Saren caught his arm. "Promise me you won't let harm come to him," she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated, feigning sincerity. "I'll do my best, Princess. But time is running out." Back in the Whispering Grove, Selim prepared for the final step of his journey. Guided by Caliph and the Guardian, he learned of an ancient ritual capable of mending the fractures threatening Velara. It required merging the essence of a Lumabloom with his own life force, a process that would either bind him permanently to the planet or consume him entirely. "Are you certain about this?" Caliph asked, concern etched on his face. "Once begun, there is no turning back." Selim nodded, determination shining in his eyes. "I didn't ask for any of this, but I can't walk away knowing I could have helped. If I fail, at least I tried." With the Guardian's blessing, they performed the ritual under the light of Velara's triple moons. The Lumabloom Saren had given him bloomed anew, its petals glowing brighter than ever as it absorbed fragments of his energy. Pain seared through Selim's body, but he endured, focusing on the faces of those he sought to protect: Saren, the Lumineth people, and even the rebels blinded by fear. As dawn broke over the horizon, the grove erupted in radiant light. When it subsided, Selim stood transformed. His skin bore faint traces of luminescence, a sign of his newfound connection to Velara. The Guardian inclined its head respectfully. "You have succeeded. The bond is forged." Returning to the palace, Selim arrived just as tensions reached their peak. Rebels clashed with royal guards outside the gates, while inside, arguments raged among the council members. Spotting Saren amidst the chaos, he called out to her, his voice cutting through the din, "Saren." She turned, her golden-violet eyes widening in disbelief. For a moment, neither moved, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. Then, without hesitation, she ran to him, throwing her arms around him. "I thought I'd lost you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Selim held her tightly, relief washing over him. "Not yet," he murmured. Turning to address the assembled crowd, rebels, royals, and citizens alike, he raised his voice. "Listen to me. This conflict ends now. I don't claim to understand everything about your world, but I know one thing: division only weakens us. Together, we can build something stronger." His words resonated deeply, especially when the luminescent glow on his skin became visible to all. Gasps rippled through the crowd as they realized the significance of what he had done. Even Lord Nixon, witnessing the scene unfold, bowed his head in quiet acknowledgement. Queen Velara stepped forward, her expression softened. "Perhaps we misjudged you, Selim. You have proven yourself worthy of our trust, and of my daughter's affection." King Taryan nodded in agreement. "Let this day mark the beginning of a new era. One of unity, not division." As peace slowly returned to Velara, Selim found himself surrounded by friends and allies, his bond with Saren stronger than ever. Though challenges remained, he faced them with hope, knowing that together, they could overcome anything. And so, beneath the shimmering skies of a world unlike any other, a human and an alien princess forged a future brighter than the stars themselves.